An architecture with multiple tenants is called multi-tenancy. In a large-scale enterprise environment, a system support tool that can independently manage multiple teams and departments and perform automation tasks is needed. The Brity RPA solution provides a multi-tenancy environment to support automated business operations by department. Tenant Portal is a web program for stable operation of the RPA solution and integrated tenant management in a large-scale business automation environment. To this end, Tenant Portal provides an independent operation management environment by department and tenant management features, such as the addition and deletion of tenants, full user-integrated management and tenant assignment. In addition, management indicators are provided for each tenant and announcements are managed individually. Now, let's access Tenant Portal. Open Chrome and enter your Tenant Portal address to go to the login page. User permission for Tenant Portal can only be given by designated system administrators. Enter the login ID and password and click the Login button to launch Tenant Portal. Tenant Portal provides tenant users, tenant, data source, and report features. In the Tenant User Manual, all users can be managed by registering, searching, and deleting users and by editing user information. Also, tenants can be mapped to users. In the Tenant menu, you can register and search tenants, edit information, and manage tenant users. In the Data Source menu, you can add and search data source and map data sources to the tenants to be used. Finally, in the Report Management menu, you can manage job performance status and bot operation status by tenant. When you log into Tenant Portal, a dashboard where you can monitor the operation status of each tenant RPA solution will appear on the main screen. Through the dashboard, you can grasp the status and error of jobs and bots by tenants and monitor the service operation status of the RPA solution, such as operation rate of RPA bots and job execution status, to improve the automation task more efficiently. In addition, by aggregating the job success rate, job process, and operate time for all tenants, you can check information, including ranking information and number of cases for the top 5 tenants and bottom 5 tenants. You can configure the dashboard with the items by selecting or clearing the checkbox for each item. You can click the Close button to delete items from the dashboard. Let's take a closer look at the User Management feature for Tenant Portal. First of all, you can register and delete users, as well as search for registered users by name, ID, email, etc. You can search and change user information, and you can also specify tenant admin permissions. You can also map between registered users and tenants. In this case, the user must belong to at least one tenant. Let's take a closer look at the Tenant Portal screen and take a closer look at the User Management features. Click the Tenant User menu on the left, and the Tenant User screen will appear. If you search for users with keywords such as name, ID, and email, the searched user information will be displayed in the list below. You can add a user by clicking the Add button and delete a user by selecting the item you want to delete and pressing the Delete button. You can also map one or more tenants to the registered users. So, let's add some users. Select the Add button. Then, in the pop-up window for adding users, enter the ID and click the Duplicate Check button to check for duplicates. After checking for duplicates, enter the name and email, and click the Save button to add the user. Next, let's map tenants to users. First, select a user to map and click the Map Tenant button. Select the name of the tenant to be mapped in the Map Tenant pop-up window and click the Add button. Then, check the newly mapped tenant information and click the Save button. Let's continue to look at the tenant feature. First, you can add, delete, and search tenants. You can also change the tenant name or admin information and map user information to add to the tenant. If you select the tenant menu on the left side of the Tenant Portal screen, the entire tenant list will appear. Enter the tenant name and representative manager ID at the top and click the Search button to display the tenant information in a list. You can click the Add button to add a tenant and click the Map User button to add users to tenant. Now, let's add a tenant. Select the Add button in Tenant. When the pop-up window to add tenants appears, enter the tenant name, data source, representative manager, and service password. Then click the Save button to add the tenant. Now, let's map users to tenants. On the Tenant Search screen, select the tenant to be mapped and click the Map User button. When the Map User window appears, select the user to add and click the Add button to add users to the tenant. Now, let's edit the tenant information. First, select the tenant you want to edit. In the Edit Tenant window, you can edit the tenant name, data source, representative manager, and change the service password. You can also deactivate the tenant by clicking the Unused button. When you have finished editing the tenant information, click the Save button to save the changes. Data source is a feature that allows you to manage database configuration information, such as JDBC and ODBC, or external interface configuration information by tenant. Key features include adding and deleting data sources and testing connectivity to manage data sources to be used individually for tenants. If you select Data Source from the left menu of the Tenant Portal screen, a list of currently registered data sources, tenant information, and URL information will be displayed at the bottom. You can also search by data source name and click the Add button to register additional data sources. Now, let's click the Add button to add a data source. When the Add Data Source window appears, enter the data source name, IP and port number, and the ID and password to access. Then, test the availability of the connection via the Connect button. Now, let's edit the data source. Click on a previously registered data source. When the Edit Data Source window appears, edit the basic information and the detailed information in the connection information, and click the Save button to apply the changed information. Next, let's look at the Notice feature. In the Notice menu, you can register, delete, and search notices. If you select the notice from the left menu of the Tenant Portal screen, the registered notices are displayed in a list. You can search for notices by title and click the Add button to register new notices. Now, let's click the Add button to register a notice. When the Notice Add window appears, enter the tenant name to be registered, notice type, title, and posting term. Then enter the details and click the Save button to register a new notice. Let's delete the registered notice. Select the item to be deleted and click the Delete button. And when a pop-up window confirming the deletion permission appears, click the OK button to delete.